Welcome everybody. How's everybody doing today? And I'd like to say happy Father's Day to all you fathers. I know today's Father's Day, and thank you for taking your time. If you are a father and you came to the live stream, I'm as always. I'm always going to give a little bit more time. We have, I think, around 16 people in the room, but we're going to give a little bit more time to let people in. And today, before we do that, before we start, I'm just going to go over the topic that we're going to have today. It's the peso exchange rate and how it impacts you. I know I've had a lot of people talking on my group about the exchange rate. There's a lot of fear about the exchange rate and how it's going to go down all the way down to 15. People are making comments that individuals are moving back home because of the exchange rate. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the exchange rate. I'm not going to go too much into the reasons for the strengthening of the peso and why the exchange rate is going down, because there's a lot of factors of why the exchange rate is going down. There's too many factors to predict. And really what I want to stress with this live stream is that really we can't predict where the peso is going to go. There's a lot of factors. But I am going to show you some statistics today. And I'm going to go over just a couple of factors that affect the strength of the peso, why the peso is getting stronger. But this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stay or keep lowering, or it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go higher. And so basically, what we're going to do today is we're going to go over just a couple of the reasons why the peso is getting a little bit stronger. First of all, the dollar is getting weaker. All of us know that. But there's a lot more to it. Basically, Mexico, the inflation rate in the United States has risen quite dramatically. Mexico has been able to keep their inflation under control. That's another thing that's been going on. And also, a lot of people don't realize this, but behind the U.S. dollar and the Canadian currency, the Mexican peso is the third most traded currency in the world. So there's a lot of interest whenever the dollar falls in value. There's a lot of interest in investing in other currencies, and the peso happens to be one of them. The other thing is that directly affects this is interest rates. Okay, one of the things that the Fed is doing in the United States is that they're raising interest rates. So interest rates are going up. Mexico did that to curb inflation. So inflation isn't moving as quickly. But I think the Fed they're at almost 5% or 5%, and they don't want to go any higher, depending if inflation gets under control. Right now, Mexico's at 10% right now at their interest rates. Okay. But the reason why that makes a big difference is, for example, I don't know if anybody's noticed in the United States, if you buy a CD or certificate of deposit or government bonds, before, when the interest rate was real low, you weren't getting any return on them. Now you can get a good CD for 4%, 5%. And the same happens in Mexico. Now that the interest rates are at 10%, you can get a really, what's equivalent to a CD in Mexico for a good 6 to 8 to 10%, depending on how long you put their money away. So investors are looking at buying the peso. Another thing is that 80% of Mexico's a manufacturing economy. 80% of the manufacturer's goods go to the United States. So what happens? When the manufactured goods go to the United States, they're paid in dollars, and they're immediately, by the companies, converted into pesos. So that makes the peso stronger because the peso's in demand. The demand for the peso goes up. So basically, your peso gets a little bit stronger. The other thing you're seeing in Mexico is that during the pandemic, people started seeing that A lot of companies went to other countries such as China, Taiwan, other countries to do their manufacturing. But the problem is getting the goods to the United States. And yes, labor is cheap, but the proximity to the United States, it costs them a lot of money in shipping and getting the products to the United States, where you have a neighbor that can produce those products. So basically, you're seeing a surge of an investment in Mexico. Actually, Tesla is getting to ready to start a major factory here in Monterrey. Actually, their Tesla truck is going to be manufactured here in Mexico, and some of their luxury vehicles. Kia's already here. Ford, Jeep. Actually, for auto manufacturing, Mexico is becoming one of the number one auto manufacturers for the United States. And there's a phenomenon known as what we call nearshoring. When I was telling you that products from, like, for example, China, they have to go all the way across the sea to deliver the products. But here with Mexico being in close proximity to the United States, not only that, but we have a free trade agreement with Mexico and the United States have a free trade agreement, and so do Canada. It's easier to import things into the United States from Mexico. Whereas in China, there's sanctions. Many times there's been sanctions on China. So what's going on? All these companies are moving to Mexico. For example, in a lot of it, I know a lot of people are going to make comments that it's the Chinese taking over. I'm not going to get into politics, but yes, Chinese companies are moving their manufacturing to Mexico. Why? Because it's right next to the United States and they can produce the goods. And yes, labor's a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, they win because it's cheaper for them to get those products to the United States. And it's easier to get the products to the United States because there's no sanctions or high duties or any kind of compensation again, or not compensation. What do you call them? Sanctions against any of these companies that are bringing the stuff in through Mexico instead versus bringing it in through China. So what you're seeing is you're seeing a strengthening in Mexico's economy. Another thing that I like to point out that a lot of people don't think of is that Mexico's the 15th largest economy in the world. We always like to think that, oh, Mexico needs the United States. Mexico needs the tourist dollars. Mexico, we support Mexico. We support Mexico. Not necessarily. It's the 15th largest country in GDP, as far as GDP economically, and it's looking to be probably number 5 or 6 within the next 10 years. So you're looking at Mexico becoming a tier 1 country, basically competing with the United States and other countries that are in the top 10. So Mexico's economy is strengthening. Now, here's the only issue. The Mexican peso, we could see, and I'm going to show you some charts right now, we could see a downfall in the peso. All the way, there's some prognostics that say that it's going to go all the way down by December, all the way down to 14.8. There's other prognostics that say, oh, well, it's already hit the bottom, so it should stabilize and come back up, sort of like the stock market does. But the honest truth is there's no way in predicting what it's going to go down to or what it's not going to go down to. And there's no telling whether it is going to go down to 14. There's a lot of things that are going to happen within the next year. Both the Mexican president, you're going to have a U.S. election. Then you're also going to have an election of a new Mexican president. So new policies may take effect. That might bring the peso down or up, depending. There's been, I'll give an example of what happened not too long ago, but the Mexican president expropriated some land, and all of a sudden the peso went from 17 to 18.5 in like one day, but then it went back down. So there's a lot of factors that can affect this. What I want to concentrate on today, especially following up on my last live stream about living here on $1,500 a month, I got a lot of great comments and a lot of great feedback of individuals that say, hey, I live here on $1,500 a month. I have no problem in living here on $2,000 a month. I budget. I have, I do this, I do that. This is how I live here on a low budget. And, I commend people for doing that because like I said, and actually, one of the things that I said in my last live stream is if you want to live here on $1,000 a month, or $1,500 a month, it entails being frugal. It entails living a minimalist lifestyle, which actually minimalist lifestyle has actually come into popularity now. There's even individuals who don't even have a house; they live out of their car in the United States and live this kind of minimalist lifestyle. Now, what I want to do is I want to put this into perspective because a lot of people think that I'm just trying to say, don't come here on $1,000 a month, or it's really hard on $1,500 a month. We just have to, our expectations is what's important. Okay. Our expectations of how we're going to live is what's important. And one of the things that's going to affect that, and I mentioned many factors, for example, your rent, where your money's going to go, but the problem is another factor that you have to consider, especially when making your budget. If you're going to live a minimalist lifestyle here, one of the things that you have to do is that you have to take into consideration how the exchange rate is going to affect you. Now, here's the thing. If the exchange rate goes back up to 20, you're in great shape. Your dollar is going to be worth more. So your 2,000 peso, your 2,000 or your $1,000, let's just say 1,000, your $1,000 a month, your budget is going to become now $1,200 a month or more. But the problem is it can also go in the same direction, the opposite direction. It can get lower. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do right now is I'm going to jump over right now to the peso. This is the peso's performance in the last year. Okay. If you see October 31st of 2022, this is a whole year analysis. If you look at the chart, it goes up and down. It's stuck at about 19 for a while. And in January, it just started going down and down. And down and down. It went back up. I think this is one of the times they did the land thing. When AMLO did the expropriation of land, and then it kept going down and down and down. So you're seeing a downward trend. Okay. So what that looks like to me is, oh my God, it's going to keep going down. Now, actually, Ban Norte, I was just reading an article today that says that by next week, they predict that the peso is going to be down to 16.8. So this is 17.8 right now. It's actually at 17.7, 17.8 right now. This is June 20th. And on the 18th, actually, it's at 17.8 right now. And there's some prognostics there that it's going to stabilize, but they're saying by next week, it's going to be at 16.8. So that's a drop in 17.08, not 17.8, 17.08, but they're looking at it going down to 16.8 next week. So what does everybody think of that? Well, we think it's going to keep going down. It's going to keep going down. Look at this chart. It's gone down from 1 year. Okay. But we also have to take into perspective. When you look at stocks and bonds go up and down all the time. So what a lot of people say, and if I look at a 6 month chart, wow, it's going down. If I look at a 1 month chart, wow, it's going down. It's really going down in 1 month. But what we need to do is we need to also look at the outlook over a period of time. This will give you a better understanding. In 2018, and this is a 5-year outlook, it was at about 18 or 19 pesos. Now it's down to 17. And then it spiked up here. It spiked all the way up to 24, 25 pesos. That was during the pandemic. And then it slowly went back down. And if you talk to many statistics people, but if you look over a 10-year period, Okay. It's gone up. So it's gone from 12 now to 17. So, you know, I know we like to think short term, but we don't know what's going to happen because number one, there's too many factors. If you analyze these charts, and you can have a mathematician analyze these charts, and a mathematician can tell you by the end of the year, based on the trend, it's going to be down to 14.5 or 14 or 15. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to keep going down. I don't want to hold out hope for people, but at the same time, let's be realistic. We don't know where the peso is going to go. So since we don't know where the peso is going to go, I think we need to take a look at how the peso is going to affect us. If it goes up, it's going to affect us in a better way. But if it goes down, we need to be able to adjust. The whole purpose of my channel, like I said, I touch on a lot of controversial topics. Sometimes some of the topics seem like a negative impact or a negative, what I'm trying to say is negative. It's not that I'm trying to say something negative. It's that I'm trying to tell you to be prepared. I want to give you the truth. What is the reality that you're facing? The problem that we have in this community, especially with expat services, especially with YouTubers that want to make money, they want to tell you that everything's going to be fine. They want to tell you that everything's great. They want to tell you that you can live on $1,000 a month. But no one really goes into the details of what that entails. No one really goes into the details of, yes, you can do it, but what is it that you have to sacrifice in order to do it? What are the ramifications of your rent going up? What are the rent goes up here. It gets increased just like it does anywhere else. What are the ramifications if the peso hits 15? So those are the things that I like to stress on my channel is I'm telling you the truth, but I'm telling you the truth because in reality, the truth is that you need to have a plan. Whether you come here on a $1,000 a month budget or you come here on a $4,000 a month budget, even if you come here on a $4,000 a month budget, if the peso goes down to 15, your buying power here is drastically reduced. Now, is your comfort level going to be drastically reduced? Not necessarily, if you plan. And it's the same thing, even on a $1,000 budget or a $1,500 budget. And I went into this in my last stream. There's a lot of other factors of coming here on $1,000 or $1,500, but I'm not going to go into that today. But what I am going to go into is I prepared a little presentation for you guys, and I'm going to do an exchange rate table, basically, and we're going to use 2000 as a base. Some people said that I used a high number or a high figures in the last time. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to show the worst case scenario. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to use a maximum of $2,000. If you own your home here, and $2,000 is very sufficient to live here, a very, very comfortable life here. If you don't own your home, yes, you're going to have to put money into rent. So maybe you might have to make some more budgeting decisions. But I'm going to start at $2,000, okay? And what I want to do is give you an example at 20 to 1, where we were almost at the beginning of the year. At 20 to 1, $2,000 is 40,000 pesos, okay? So basically that means you have 40,000 pesos in the bank to exchange. And I know it's 17.09, well, 17.08 the last time I checked, but there's a very good app that I use on the phone called XE Currency. That usually gives you the latest exchange rate. Now, 2,000 at 90 to 1 is 38,000 pesos. Now, I know I'm using 20 to 1, and Todd just said, hey, but it's 17.09. But the reason why I'm illustrating this is I'm showing you your buying power at the different rates. Because like I said, it can go up or it can go down. Okay, so I have seen prognostics that even say that by next year we'll be at 25. But all of those prognostics, no matter how you manipulate the numbers, we can't tell the future. We can't tell the future of whether it's going to keep going down. I've seen the stock market crash and then come back and rally and double its value in 5 years. So it's not there is no definites. Okay, there's no definites here, so that's why I'm starting with $2,000 a month and at a 20 to 1. But I want to show you where your buying power, how it gets reduced. At $2,000 at 18 to 1 is 36,000 pesos. Okay, now just think, you're losing 2,000 pesos for every dollar drop, or not every dollar drop, every peso drop. And 2,000 pesos, remember, that's $100 if you think about it, at 20 to 1. So you're kind of losing $100 every time it goes down. And then 2,000 at 17 to 1 is 34,000. At 16 to 1 is 32,000. And at 15 to 1, if it hits prognostics like some people say, that it might hit 15 to 1 by the end of the year, you have just lost 10,000 pesos. 10,000 pesos right now, and we're going to see a little bit later, could mean your rent. At $500, if you rent for $500 a month, 10,000 pesos is your actual rent. So, and I'm using this based on a 20 to 1, okay? If it was 20 to 1. If it goes down to 15 to 1, you have just lost 10,000 pesos, and 10,000 pesos is what is a normal rent of around $500. So if you're living here and you're paying the equivalent of $500 in rent, guess what? You've now lost your rent money just with the exchange rate. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the other way around. And this is the reason why I'm going to do it the other way around. Number one is that I'm going to show you that it actually benefits the Mexican citizen for the peso rate to go down. And I'm going to show you how the valuation, this is going to come into a little bit later with the tables that I'm going to show you. But at 40,000 pesos, which is $2,000, the same $2,000, at 20 to 1, it's $2,000, of course. At 19 to 1, it's $2,100. And this, you can also get an idea of how much, like I said, as the peso go down, how much more you're spending on 2,000. So for example, if you have a budget of $2,000 and the peso goes down to 19 to 1, you technically have to increase your budget by $100. At 18 to 1, it's 2,222. And I'm rounding these figures off to the nearest peso. At 40,000 pesos at 17 to 1 is 2,352. 40,000 pesos at 16 to 1 is $2,500. And 40,000 pesos at 15 to 1 is $667. So if you came here, and I'm just giving an example here, if you came here with a budget of 40,000 pesos or $2,000 a month when it was 20 to 1, now, not now, but by the end of the year, if it gets down to 15 to 1, you now need a budget of 2,667 pesos. Now, it's going to be, that sounds dramatic. I know it does. But at the same time, let's say we're right here at 17 to 1, but let's just say it stabilizes at 17 to 1. I don't know what they call it in the stock market, where it hits a bottom, and then it starts moving back up. Let's say it moves back up to 20 to 1, because there have been some prognostics that it's going to raise back up to 20, 21, or 19. Now, let's say you're right here right now, and you have that 40,000, or you're spending the 2,300, and it goes back up to 20 to 1, you're in a plus. You're going to be only on a $2,000 budget. Your 40,000 pesos is going to go a lot further. So it is relative. Just remember that. That's one thing that I want everybody to remember that. And and actually, my name said this very, very well, and I'm going to put his comment out. Yes, it'll have a dramatic impact on expats living on a fixed income. And it has a dramatic impact in different ways. If it goes down, yes, dramatically, it goes down if it goes down dramatically, you're going to have less money, but also dramatically it could go up and you could end up in a really good situation. So don't sit there and think that, oh no, it's going to go down to 15, 14 because it just keeps going and going and going. The thing is that, I always say it's not official till it's official. So, I think that what the important thing is to remember in all of this is to be able to plan. Moy Name says that he thinks it'll stay around 16, 18. So if it does stay around between 16 and 18, you're going to see that you're still going to be affected, but it might be a little bit less of an effect. So now let me go back down here and I'm going to give an example of rent. Okay. And how this, and where a lot of people are going to see a real change here. Let's say rent, okay, a normal small place, not a room. You can get it for less than 10,000 pesos. I even saw some people make some comments on my last live that they spend a lot less than 15,000 pesos, which is the one where I bottomed out the last time. But let's say 10,000 pesos at 20 to 1, that was $500. Okay. If for a lot of people that came here, so that's $500. And then 10,000 pesos at 19 to 1. If you notice this, it starts moving down. So let's say right now you're paying $88. If you came about a year ago and you were paying $500 in rent, that same 10,000 pesos is now costing you $88. You're almost paying $100 more just with the exchange rate. We're not talking about rent increases or anything like that. Now, 15,000 pesos, I'm going to give $750, which, like I said, my sister-in-law rents her house it was a 3-bedroom house, nice house, a community pool in San Miguel de Allende, gated community. She rents her place for 15,000 pesos. So that's a pretty affordable price, $750 about a year ago. Now you're looking at $882. And then if it goes all the way down to 15 to 1, we're looking at $1,000. So all of a sudden, you're looking at $250 increase in rent. By the end of next year, if you came within a year, if you came last year when it was 20 or when it was 20, and within a year, you're paying $250 more in rent. And if you look at 20,000 pesos, which is, you're living a good, you could get a really good place for $1,000. But if you look at my chart here, if you look at the chart here, then you can see that you're going to be doing $300. You're going to be paying $300 more. And this is your target audience that dumb that they can't do simple math? Yes, I think they can, but I think it's good that we actually, I'll tell you what, I think that there's nothing wrong with doing this simple math. All of this math is simple, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show everybody that, look, this is going to affect you either way around. It doesn't matter. Let's say we're at 15 to 1. Let's say you move here when you have to pay $600 a month. And guess what? It goes up to 20 to 1. You're only paying $500 a month. This isn't about math. This is about how you need to plan. So, you know what? I'm not talking about the intelligence of my audience. I'm talking about how it's going to affect you. And you know what? If I have to put charts up, that's what I'm going to do. And your budget examples. Let's say you have $1,000 a month budget. I'm saying, let's say you own your home, whatever. And it's the same thing. I did the $1,000, $1,500, and $2,000. And as you're going to see, your $1,000 budget, if it goes down to 15, now turned into spending $300 more a month. That is what it comes down to. So let's go back here. Let me go back to my regular stream. So I guess my point in this whole thing is that we need to look at when we plan to move to Mexico is that we need to take into account the fluctuations in the peso. You know, lately, this last year, before it started going down to 17, when it was in the 20s, it would go down to 19.5. It would go back up to 20. When you start seeing a 0.5 difference, it's not a lot. I mean, yes, it is. For some people, that's a meal. It's 10, 20 bucks. But, you know, you tend to see it as, you know, not a big deal. It fluctuates. You know, I'm paying 10 bucks more to transfer money here, or I'm paying 10 bucks more to take out the same amount of pesos, or 5 bucks more, or 3 bucks more. But when that 3 bucks or that 5 bucks starts turning into 100 bucks, that's when you have to understand that you can't come here. And the problem that you have when it comes to Mexico is that a lot of people want black and white answers. I'll give an example, and this has nothing to do with the peso exchange rate, but someone once said how much do they charge for kilowatt hour in Quintana Roo for electricity? Because I want to move to Quintana Roo and I want to know what electricity costs. And people don't understand that electricity here in Mexico doesn't work like it does in the United States. In the United States, you pay for your electricity. In the United States, you pay a fixed rate, 15%, 15 cents, depending where you live, 15 cents a kilowatt hour, 20 cents a kilowatt hour. So you even go and you shop electric companies. In Texas, they shop electric companies and you can get these deals where you get free electric at night, all that stuff. But it doesn't work that way here in Mexico. The way it works here in Mexico is for the first 500 kilowatt hours every month, the government subsidizes it. So it's like not even pennies, okay, basic, or not pennies in the sense of pesos. But what happens is that it's like 0.07 pesos, okay? And it's federalized, so it's the same everywhere. But they take 6 months of your bill, and if you've gone over, if you have an average, let's say you go 500 one month, they take an average. But the minute you go over that average, all of a sudden, 7 cents becomes $2. Now, I'm speaking 2 pesos. But the reason why I'm using U.S. currency is like, just think, you're paying 7 cents a kilowatt hour, but all of a sudden you went over by 500, and then all of a sudden you're paying $2 a kilowatt hour. That's the way it works here in Mexico. So your electric bill could go from 7 cents to $2 a kilowatt hour. And guess what? You have to another 6 months till you get off that special rate if you going back down on your thing. And that's when I was talking about using electricity in Merida. You can actually end up paying more in your electric bill in Merida than you are paying in rent. So nothing is a definite. And it's the same thing with the peso. The peso is not definite. This week, you could be making money, as I would say, because the next week, let's say next week it really goes down to 6.8, I'm losing money. And let's say it goes back up to 18, I'm making money. And then for some of us, actually going down to 15 may be good. Maybe I'm going to sell my house at the end of the year. And I want it to be at 15 because if I sell my house for 6 million pesos, now I'm up $80,000. So it depends what your personal situation, it always depends on your personal situation. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to stress here, is that everything depends on your own personal situation. And you need to take into consideration these fluctuations in the peso. And here's the other thing too. One comment that was made on my Facebook group was that, well, you know, a lot of Americans are moving back because the peso exchange rate is going down. Well, inflation in the United States is at an all-time high. So how can you go back to the United States if rent, your basic rent that used to cost you $700 in the United States is now $1,000, $1,500? The only thing that maybe you might be able to benefit from moving back to the United States is that, I don't know, you might be able to qualify for some type of welfare program wherever you're at, or you might be able to qualify for Section 8 housing, or you may be able to qualify, or for example, if you're older, Medicare, because you know you need your medical stuff taken care of. But it doesn't necessarily mean because things are getting bad here that they're going to be better going back home. I think that it's all relative. It's relative, and you really need to look at your personal situation. For example, if you see this, the exchange rate is going down, you just might have to buckle up a little bit more. Doesn't mean you have to move back home. You may not be able to move back home. Don't make rash decisions. And that's one of the things that I always say, even in moving to Mexico, don't make a rash decision. It's not as simple as just move down here, just take the jump, just take the leap, just come down here. I've heard this so many times by YouTubers. Don't, you know, all those people that are telling you they're just trying to scare you. No, we're not trying to scare you. The people that do these videos like me, people like Kuru Paul, people that do these videos that just tell you this is the law, this is the way it works. We're telling you these things because we want you to be prepared. We want you to know what you're getting into. The worst thing I always say, I used to say this with immigration, the worst thing is to be caught with your pants down. That's the worst thing. I know it's a saying, but that's the worst thing. If you're prepared, you can adjust your budget. You can adjust your style of living. So that is my point in this whole thing, and that it will impact you, whether it be for the positive or the negative. But don't get discouraged as of yet. Like I said, it's not official until it's official. We could actually see a whole turnaround, and next thing you know, your dollar's worth twice as much as it is going to be, or not twice as much, but your dollar is going to be worth a lot more in a year. And like I said, maybe it's time if you want to go back home to sell your house if you own property down here, because if it's at 15-1, you're going to make out like a bandit. But you know, it all depends on your stuff, your personal situation. And let's go ahead and go into some of the comments. And Todd Meek was saying learning via reinforcement. Exactly. That's what I was trying to do when someone was trying to make the comment about the simple math. And also, Todd was saying that he has an ongoing agreement for rent with for 17,250 pesos. I now have to wait a second. I know CSNs get cheaper, but not the location. Yeah, and Todd, that's great. That's another thing that you want to look into. That's a good point to make. Try to find a place where your rent is gonna stay consistent. Even if you have to sign a long-term lease and you know you're going to be here for a while, that's one way of nailing in that 17, you said 17,000 or that 10,000 pesos or whatever. When I say rent increases, it is normal, but there are people who will rent to you long-term for, where you can keep on paying the same rent. I know some people that have been paying the same rent for 10 years. The landlord just loves them as a tenant, and that's a good strategy, actually. And Tyler, you have a good point. That's how much money you have. It does not determine what one will pay for service or a product. And that's true, Tyler. And that's one of the things, like I'm trying to tell you, you have and actually, this is mostly for people on a fixed income. I have a pension. I get the same amount of money. Yes, I get a raise every year for 5%, 2%, 1%, but it really doesn't make much of a difference. But, I have so much money in the bank from my pension, and that has to convert over into pesos. Now, if you make pesos, if you work here and you make pesos, then you should be fine. and you should be fine in the sense that you think in pesos. And I think the other thing that we need to do a lot of is we think in dollars. I actually watched another YouTuber that was talking about gentrification in Colombia, and he said that what he started doing is that in order to think more like a local, he started thinking in pesos. He started thinking his budget in pesos. So, and in Colombia, the exchange rate is outrageous. It's like you pay a couple of 100,000 pesos for a meal. So what he started doing is he started seeing, when he started thinking in pesos, is he says, okay, I have this many pesos. If I go out to eat, it's going to cost me 50,000 pesos more to eat this lunch. So I might go to another place, and instead of thinking in dollars, because if you think in dollars, oh, that's just another dollar. I'll just go to this other place to eat for an extra dollar. And he said that a lot of times when he was thinking in dollars, he didn't think very much of it, because I can go to this better restaurant for $1 more or $2 more, $3 more. He says, but when I started thinking in pesos, especially in Colombia, where $1 or $2 is 50,000 or 100,000 pesos, then, and I don't know the exact exchange rate, I'm just being hypothetical here, but he started saying 50,000 is a lot. So he started thinking in pesos. And I think if you start thinking in pesos, you convert your money, and yeah, you have less pesos. Okay, I transfer my money over, I have less pesos. Okay, now that I have less pesos, how am I going to budget those pesos? Not necessarily how am I going to budget my dollars. And if you start thinking and now this month I have less pesos than I had last month, or guess what? This month, next month, the exchange rate, let's go the following month, the exchange rate goes up. Guess what? I'm going to put those extra 100 pesos or 200 pesos or 300 pesos or 1,000 pesos, not 200, 300, but like I showed you, 2,000 pesos it was on a $2,000 thing. I'm going to put that 2,000 pesos away in the bank, so that in case next month it goes back down to 16 or 15, I have that cushion. So those are the things that you want to plan. And I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever seen a YouTuber think. And he was talking about gentrification, because he was saying, and he actually knew what it was cost in pesos for the local people to rent. So then what he would do is say, I don't want to hear how many dollars, I want to hear how many pesos. And then even when he was renting a place, when he was looking for a place, he's like, wow, this is 100,000 pesos more than, and I could have 100,000 pesos extra. So what he did is he started thinking in relation to pesos. So I think that's a really great piece of advice, is that we quit thinking about how much is my dollar going to be worth. Let's just see how many pesos my dollar gets, and then let's see what we can do about living with that on that budget. And I think it'll be a lot less stressful. Number one, yes, it will be more stressful if, like I said, you lose 10,000 pesos, and that's rent. But if you start thinking in the sense of pesos, and this month I got more, next month I don't, then, or maybe strategy in transferring money. Let's say the peso is really volatile and it's going up and down, and 1 month it's 19, the next month it's 18, the next month it's 17. When you see it go to 19, transfer some money so you have more pesos. You want to think in pesos. And always think in pesos, because that way, if the exchange rate goes up, man, I'm going to jump on this. I'm going to go to TransferWise and I'm going to transfer from my savings account. I'm going to transfer $2,000 if I have it in my savings account. Whereas, okay, but then in 2 months it goes down to 16. But I'll give you a perfect example. My own personal example. I bought my house. I paid up. I took the money and I transferred it to the bank, the house that we're building now. And the exchange rate was 20 to 1. So right now, if I were to try to pay that same amount, my house would have cost me about $40,000 to $50,000 more transferring the money right now. So I came out ahead by transferring the money when it was 20 to 1. So, you just need to start thinking of those things and thinking in the sense of pesos. Um, And Tyler, you have a good point. Exactly what I said. There's a lot of renters here in Mexico that, and here's the thing with Mexico, depending on what parts of Mexico, a lot of times the renters won't take good care of the place. I know in San Miguel de Allende, a lot of people come in from Mexico City. They have a, a, a reputation of just trashing the rentals because they just don't care. They're paying rent and they just say, I'm going to just treat it the way I want to. So, for example, a lot of people in San Miguel de Allende, they're looking for people that are going to take care of the house. And if they see that you're taking care of the house, guess what? We're gonna keep the rent at the same price. And I know a lot of people that have been able to negotiate keeping the rent down if they take care of a place. So you do have that's a good point, Tyler. And exactly, CMT, exactly what I was saying. When we moved here, I found myself thinking in pesos because of my grocery shopping. And that's one of the things that you want to do because you're going to grocery shop and you're going to pay in pesos. You're going to go to the local market, you're going to pay in pesos. I know another strategy that a lot of people use is they go and they take their pesos out, let's say 20,000 or 30,000, because cash is king here. They'll take that 30,000 and they'll put it away in a safe. And when they go to buy groceries, they'll pay cash. And then they can see their stack of bills dwindling or not dwindling. But if you do that, you have to have a lot of discipline because a lot of times, because this happens to me, I put 200 pesos in my wallet and it's gone by tomorrow just going to the 7-Eleven and go, oh, I got 200 pesos here and paying for this and then buying another Coke. And before I know it, my 200 pesos is gone. But if you can look at those pesos and say, this is the only 200 pesos I got, I have to make it last, then you're not going to go and just buy a Coke or you know what? I got Coke at home or I got a couple of cans of Coke at home. I can wait for 15 minutes when I drive while I get on the bus and I get home and I can grab a Coke out of the refrigerator. Why do I need to spend 10 or 20 pesos? And that'll make my budget a little bit better. So that's the best thing to do. And Nerd Uno, I have noticed prices of food tend to fluctuate on the dollar to peso exchange rate. Actually, they do, but I'll tell you what, Nerd, what I've actually noticed is that the foods that do fluctuate happen to be those things like Oreos, American products, Ruffles potato chips. Those types of things tend to fluctuate along with, but for example, some potato chips or whatever that are local brands here in Mexico, I don't see those prices fluctuating a lot. I experience this a lot in Brazil. If I wanted the brands that I'm used to back home, I pay double the price. And it's not that bad over here in Mexico, but I pay double the price in Brazil. But if I took that same Oreo, but the Brazilian Oreo brand or the same thing, it didn't taste the same as Oreo, but it almost did. It's sort of like buying the generic. It was not double the price, but it was half the price. So those are things that you have to look at. Food does fluctuate, but one thing that doesn't fluctuate as much are products that are produced here. For example, avocados, citrus. A lot of the products that are produced here, you're not going to see a large movement. And actually, if you go to the marketplace and you shop locally at the local markets, the mercado, especially like in San Miguel, I didn't see too much of a fluctuation. One thing that I have noticed is that inflation here, yes, there is inflation. I've gone to the Costco and to the Walmart, and I noticed that at the end, I'm paying several pesos more or 1,000 pesos more for groceries or whatever when we fill up the cart. I'm talking about when we fill up the cart. But I also say it, you can also equate that to inflation. The other thing that I think a lot of people need to take into consideration is that the U.S. inflation is up here and Mexico is at like this type of inflation right here. So the cost, out of your pocket, you may not feel it as bad as you think you're going to feel it because of the valuation of the peso going down. Oh, and CMT actually said this, and I actually found the same thing, CMT in Brazil. There were certain, and actually same thing here in Mexico. Actually, I used to love pingüinos and chocorroles from Mexico, and I used to buy them in the United States. I actually used to pay more in the United States than I pay here. So there's a lot of products here that are even better than in the United States. Also, one of the things that I always say is if you shop at the local market, because there are grocery stores here, and depending on where you're at, there's a chain that's very famous in Texas. It started in Texas. It was only in Texas, but they have them in Querétaro. They have them here in Monterrey in the northern part, in different parts. HEB, they're a major chain, but you're going to find that they carry a lot of the normal products, but though they're going to carry a lot of your products that you're used to back home, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive. But you can go to the local market and spend half that amount of money even on vegetable. I'm talking about just regular vegetables. You're going to spend half by going to the local market, and it's going to be fresh and it's going to be organic. Yes, Tyler, that's what I was just mentioning. Buy at the local tiendas. The food is better anyway. And it also is more healthy for you. It's not more healthy. It's healthier. Sorry, I accidentally, my English is going here. But you're going to find that you have a lot better quality of food as far as organic wise, less processed. My cholesterol went down moving here. All sorts of my indicators went down. The only thing you have to be very careful with here in Mexico is sugar. A lot of items have a lot of sugar if you're needing to be on a low carb. But as far as the vegetables, even going to a restaurant, if you eat at a local taco stand, it's nothing like eating at McDonald's in the United States. When you're eating a hamburger at McDonald's or at Carl's Jr. or at wherever you might say, you're eating nothing but processed meat, processed food, and it's processed goods. Here, you go to a local burger joint and it's real meat. It's real lettuce. It's not lettuce that's been sprayed with chemicals to last for 3 weeks till it gets to the place. It's actually fresh lettuce, fresh tomatoes, fresh food. I'm not saying that the hamburger is going to be healthier for you. You might still fill up your arteries with cholesterol, but it is going to be healthier than McDonald's. I'll guarantee you that. And some of the McDonald's in South America and Latin America are actually healthier than the McDonald's in the United States because they actually use the real meat and real products. Actually, I went to Argentina and I ate at a McDonald's. Someone told me I had to go to a McDonald's in Argentina when I was in Argentina, and the meat there was Argentinian beef that they were serving at McDonald's. So not necessarily, I can't put down the McDonald's brand, but there is a difference than eating here than eating in other places. That's about it. We're coming up on an hour. Let me see. Let me go back through the comments. If anybody else, Angie Hernandez, do you recommend having a Wise account? I'm feeling it might be helpful to transfer U.S. dollars to pesos before U.S. dollar weakens more. I have a Wise account and I have a Mexican bank account. So yes, and that's what it goes back to the point that I was telling you that what you might want to do is make sure that you might want to make sure that you transfer money when the rate's back higher. It just like if you want to, like if you were doing stocks, okay, if it goes up to 18, I'm going to transfer 1,000. The only thing that I always say is don't transfer large sums of money. If you see it goes back up, like let's say right now it's at 17 and you see it go back up to 17.06 and you see it go back up to 18.06, that's a good chance to get some extra pesos. But don't go off and put $10,000 because next week, what happens if it goes up to 19? You just kind of, so you kind of got to average it out. So if you see that it goes up to 18, okay, I'm going to gain 1 peso. Let me send 2,000. Let me send 3,000. That way, I'm going to get some extra pesos, but at the same time, in case it goes up next week, I'm still got some money in the bank to transfer that money. If it goes down, then I still got some money in the bank to spend because I got some extra pesos. So that's what we do. I never transfer large sums of money through TransferWise. It's usually $1,000 or $2,000 at a time. And that was one of the reasons why I did it, because the peso will usually fluctuate by 1 or 2. Once it stabilizes, it'll usually fluctuate between 1 or 2 pesos, not usually by 1, by 0.5 to 0.6. Now, do take into consideration that you'll pay a fee with TransferWise, and it's a percentage. And so even though you'll be getting the actual exchange rate, you're still going to be getting a little bit lower. But they're really good about showing you how much money you're going to get in pesos if you put it into the app. And Cokes are much sweeter here. Actually, I noticed Cokes are much sweeter here than in the U.S. And Cindy said they sure are. Probably the sugar content is a lot more. And see, that is better than the chemical sweeteners. But the only thing that I will say, that Coke is still Coke, no matter where you go. It's got a lot of chemicals in it already. So, and there's been a lot of controversy actually with the Mexican Coke, if it's really got sugar or if it's a different formula. Some people have even argued that it's the same formula, but for some reason, because it's a Mexican Coke and maybe in the past it had a reputation of being sweeter, that people just kind of mentally think it's sweeter. But that they say that Coca-Cola right now produces all of their Cokes for export here in Monterrey, Mexico. Most of their Coca-Cola's biggest factory is here. So you wanna make sure that there may not be any difference nowadays how they manufacture Coke than they did before. And Ron Felton just said, Wise now pays more than 4% on U.S. dollars stored in Wise. Park dollars and you bring into pesos slowly as rates change. That's a good idea, Ron. It's a great piece of advice. Is put it in some type of something like Wise. And I think Wise has that. They even have a debit card or a credit card that you can take out, I think. But that is a good piece of advice. But it's all about strategy. Like I said, we don't know if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down. There's no telling. And I think that we're all humans and we adapt. I talked to my in-laws and they can tell you when it was 10 to 1, when it was 8 to 1. And it's now different. And so you're just going to have to learn how to adapt. My biggest warning to everybody is just that if you're going to come here and you're going to live on a budget, make sure you take these things into consideration. And I went into this in my last stream. Is look, living here on $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, probably more likely $2,000 a month. And actually, if to be honest with you, this is another thing that's going to be affected, is the actual, some consulates are actually changing or raising the financial solvency requirements because of the exchange rate. Not all of them are doing it. Normally, most consulates do it at the beginning of the year, so you're pretty good for the beginning of the year. But just watch out for that too. And the other thing that might happen in the next year, because immigration has already done it, is they've gone to the UMA formula, the UMA indicator. So if you take that formula, and I've done this before, if you take that UMA formula on $1,800 on your Social Security check, you should be able to actually qualify for temporary residency. If that happens and the exchange rate stays at about what it's at right now, let's say, you'll be able to come here and qualify for residency and all of that stuff. But you just got to remember, these things can happen. You can either end up in a better situation with more pesos or a worse situation with less pesos. But just be willing to adapt. That's all that needs to be done. I'm not leaving Mexico And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not leaving Mexico. My pension took a big hit as far as the amount of pesos I get. But like I said, we think in pesos. We don't think in what I get a month in pesos. Actually, I don't even look at my pension. We actually transfer money over and we spend it out of our Mexican bank account. And whatever's left over is left over. Whatever's not. But uh, but we think in the sense of, and I always look. Wake up in the morning. Here's another good piece of advice. Wake up in the morning, open up the TransferWise app, and see how much $1,000 in pet will get you in pesos. And you know what? Or the XE app. I have a widget on my iPhone that the XE, it's called XE Currency. I get that XE Currency app. I have a widget. I wake up in the morning. Hey, it went down. Not transferring any money today. Hey, it went up. You know what? Well, it might go up, but I'm gonna, it's like anything else. You decide when you think it's a good time. RA. Here now, and the drop in the exchange rate killed my planned budget. Mexican president said he expected 20 in a few years, and Goldman Sachs 18.5 by early 2024, which I agree with. Yes, actually, one thing that I will tell you, RA, like I said, just adjust your budget. But here's the thing with the peso. The peso works, and I always compare it to stocks because it's traded just like stock. Currency, they call it forex trading, but currency is traded just like stocks are traded. So one of the things that you're going to find, and I showed you that 10-year chart. If you looked at the 10-year chart, it actually went up. The peso went up. The trend went up. Yeah, it went down and up. But if you look at a stock chart, it looks the same. So now, don't get me wrong. There's inflation and all of those things. So, in 10 years, 2,000 pesos is not going to be worth what it is now. But at the same time, or 40,000 pesos or 20,000 or 100,000 pesos. But like I said, you're going to hit a bottom, and then you're going to probably see somewhere where it comes up. And actually, on that chart, there's like a little top and a bottom, and then it'll kind of show like where it should be bottoming out and where it should be topping out. And I think most of the charts have said that it should bottom out probably at about 16, and then probably average out or top out at about 19. So 18.5 sounds like something reasonable eventually. But there's going to be that fluctuation, especially with all the political changes in both the United States and Mexico. One thing that I didn't mention is when we're talking about manufacturing, even Foxconn. I don't know if anybody knows who Foxconn is. Foxconn are the people who manufacture the iPhone for Apple. Foxconn is actually slated to build a plant here. So your iPhone and your Apple products and your Apple computers may be manufactured in Mexico pretty soon. So those are things, investments that China's making, or Foxconn and all these companies are making to Mexico. And all of that is going to make a big difference in the strength of the peso, a big difference. So there's a lot of things coming down the road, and there's no way to predict. And like I always tell everybody, move to Mexico because you love the country, not because of the financial, the financial gain or the financial benefit. So I'm going to leave it at that, unless someone has some last minute question. And it says here, Mexican economic boom will keep it from reaching 20 again. Plus, yes, take inflation. I see Mexico being the top 10 economic eventually, especially if they go to the 5-day work week. That's something that they have been doing. And RA, you are correct. I don't think it's going to hit 20 or 25 again. So we're going to have to see where what I forgot what they call in the stock market where it stabilizes. You're going to have like an average, a mean. And I think that's what's going to be. Could we see 15? Could we see 14.8 or 14 point? I think it was 14.4 by the end of the year. Yes, we could. But you also got to remember it could recover, could not. There's a lot of things going on. Like I said, Tesla is building factories here, Foxconn. And here's the thing that you got to remember with Foxconn and Apple. Exactly. Foxconn manufactures the iPhone, but Foxconn doesn't manufacture all the parts. For example, the screen on your iPhone, most of the screens on your iPhones and your MacBooks are actually supplied by Samsung. So let's say Foxconn starts a corporation, a factory down here, not a corporation, a factory down here. They start manufacturing Apple products down here. Well, guess what? They're going to need to source the screens. They're going to need to source from Samsung. They're going to need to source the screens for their Apple MacBooks. They're going to have to. So what do you think Samsung might do? Oh, let's move our operations to Mexico to be closer to Foxconn so that we can supply. Also, in your Tesla, how many pieces of computer chips, how many pieces of how many parts, and how many pieces of your Tesla are made in different countries? For example, the chips, the silicon, all of those things that go in there. Those providers are going to end up moving closer to Tesla. They're going to end up moving closer to Foxconn so that they can produce those products. And this is what they call nearshoring. This is a new phenomenon in the manufacturing industry that's called nearshoring. And then not only that, but it makes political sense for Apple because guess what? Apple's going to say, your iPhone's not made in China anymore, even though it's a Chinese company and is being manufactured in Mexico. And actually, Apple took a big heat. If I'm not mistaken, they even moved their manufacturing to Taiwan because they were getting a lot of heat. And then not only that, during the last administration, not only that were they getting a lot of heat, but they were also putting sanctions on China. So let's start manufacturing in Taiwan so then we don't have to worry about the sanctions. So you're going to see a lot of that happening with companies here in Mexico. So I'm going to leave it at that. And we went 12 minutes over. And I usually leave it. Anybody have any last minute questions about Mexico? Because I always say I don't leave it to just the subject at hand. The other thing is thank you and happy Father's Day, like I said to everybody else. And hey, thank you, Noah. That's my son there. That's saying happy Father's Day. He actually got onto my stream today. Thank you, Noah. So one of the things that I ask you guys to do is where I'm getting a lot of my ideas to do a lot of these live streams is in my Facebook group. If you're interested in any kind of topic, hit me up. Let me know. We can discuss this. Most of my ideas that I'm getting now, I'm just about to put a post on my Facebook group. If you want to see certain videos, I'm going to start doing videos on whatever you want to do videos on. And Tyler Webb, I read that Ford is investing $300 million to convert existing plant to electric cars. I wouldn't doubt it, Tyler. Ford has a big representation down here in Mexico. As a matter of fact, a lot of your Ford, Ford products here in Mexico are cheaper. Ford trucks and Ford vehicles are cheaper here in Mexico, and the reason why they're more cheaper here in Mexico is because they're not imported, because they're actually manufactured. I think it's 80 or 90%. I don't remember my custom law, but if 80% is manufactured in that home country, they don't have to pay duty. So when they actually re-import it, because sometimes those vehicles are assembled in the United States, but when they re-import it back into Mexico, Mexico doesn't charge Ford duties. So your vehicles here, like for example, for a BMW that costs the same amount of money, let's say a BMW, I'm talking about a 320i that costs $60,000, but you have a Ford truck that costs $60,000. Well, that BMW here is going to cost about $100,000, and that Ford truck here is still going to cost you the $60,000 because of duties wasn't paid. So Ford does have a big. And Andy Thornton, thank you for using the charts. It makes more sense seeing the numbers. Take care. Well, thank you. And I want to thank you all for supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel. And if you have any suggestions, put them in the comment sections. I also on Facebook or on Discord. Hit me up on Discord. And tell me, hey, I'd like to see a video on this, or I'd like to talk about that. I know a lot of people have been asking me to do the peso exchange rate, and I finally got around to doing it. There was a lot of volatility, so I kind of was going to do it, and then I drew back and I went forward again on doing it. But now I decided to go ahead and do it this time around. So hopefully we're and the next live stream, I will tell you what I'm planning. And the next live stream is the use of credit cards and debit cards here in Mexico. One of our users went to buy gas, and he got actually sucked into a scheme here in Mexico that they use at the ATM machines when you're using U.S. debit cards and U.S. debit credit cards. So let me see. Oh, is the regularization program still running? GYBK, yes, it is. And it depends on where you go. The best thing to do is just wherever you're planning to go. The regularization program is evaluated every 6 months. So I think June came up. So we're going to have to see what happens at the end of this June. If they're who's going to re-up it, or if they're all going to re-up it. Guadalajara is one of those offices that re-ups it, and then they get rid of it, and then they re-up it the following year or the following 6 months. So there's no telling which offices will still have it. The ones that have been very consistent have been Mérida, Huatulco. Let me see. Playa del Carmen, I think, has been pretty consistent about keeping it. The one that's been the most lenient has been Mérida. Mérida just requires, at the last time I heard, only requires that your visa be expired. Some of the offices you had to have come in before the beginning of the year. The expire or other offices, the visa has to be a 180-day expired visa, not 7 days. I'm not talking about visa, but an FMM. I always call it a visa, and I told people why I use that term. So just check in the different areas. The regularization program should still be available. I don't see it going away anytime real soon. What I do see is that immigration will start playing around with the rules. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that you kind of get caught in a catch-22, because let's say you come in now, let's say in the Cancun area, Playa del Carmen, you want to do it in Playa del Carmen, Mérida. You want to come in, and you come in Cancun, and they're giving these 180 days because of the system's automatic. And unless they flagged you for repeat entries, you get 180 days because it's easier to get you through. So then now you have to wait a whole 180 days. But what happens in 180 days if the program doesn't exist anymore? I've seen that happen where people are kind of like, I'm going to have to take a gamble. So that's really the only thing in the regularization program that I see. Do I see it continuing? Yes, I do. The regularization program has been around it's been around way before it even became popular, to be honest with you. But it's just that during COVID, they opened up, and actually during COVID, when they started this, what we now know as a regularization program, it was for humanity. They were using the humanitarian thing, and then they switched it over to the regularization program. Regularization program has always existed. It's just been that the requirements have been different. And now the requirements are a lot easier. So GYBK, just check wherever. I would check with Mérida. And I know San Miguel de Allende was also back up on it, and Querétaro, I think, might still be back up on it. So those are the main places to check. thing to do is contact a facilitator in those areas, and they should be able to tell you. And one last comment here. The Mexican economy will definitely be a competitive and diversified economy. I think that Mexico's economic outlook is looked as underrated. We focus a lot on China and India. I believe Malaysia will grow. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Michael. I totally agree with you. Mexico has become has always been an underrated economy, and that's what's led to a lot of misconceptions about Mexico. And GYBK, can I ask, and I've actually been asked this, can I ask for less than 180 days if I have a forward plane ticket to show? Thanks for your help. I've actually had this question posed to me, and I'm going to go into this real quick. Depending on where you fly into, you can ask for less than 180 days. You can ask for 7 days. You can say, hey, I'm only going to be here 7 days. I just want to be here 7 days. The problem with asking for less than 180 days is right now, what they're doing at the airports with this new electronic FMM and the computer system and everything else is that they want to expedite entries. It has nothing to do with catching border runners or anything else. It has to do with expediting entries. So basically, you come into the airport in Cancun, right? You come into the airport at Cancun, they want to get you through that line in less than 10 minutes. Before you used to wait for an hour, somebody would put their passport up there, then it wouldn't scan, then you would have to wait for them. And what they want to do is they want to expedite. They want to expedite. So what they do, and I'm basically saying they have, I don't know how it works, but they have an easy button. They scan your passport and they punch a button and it automatically gives you 180 days. It's the easy button. Okay. So, and a lot of airports are doing this. Not all the airports are doing it. Now, let's say in the computer, I don't know, you've had 5 previous entries and a red flag goes off and, oh, so why are you really here? You might get that, you might not, but most people are getting the easy button. Why? Because it's your first time in, or you haven't been in for a while. I don't know what the algorithm is for them to start asking you questions. Some people have said, hey, they made it real hard. They asked me 50 million questions. Other people say, nope, I just got these. The problem is even if you ask for less than 180 days, they might still just push the easy button. Why are they going to push the easy button? Because guess what? Oh, you're only going to be here for 7 days? I'll just give you 180 days anyway. Boom. Because you're going to leave in 7 days. So they still might press the easy button if that makes sense. Even if you have a plane ticket going on. Also, the other thing that they might do is they might press the easy button, but they write in your passport. And this is what's very important that you do if they do. They'll write in your passport, oh, what date did you say you were leaving? Oh, okay. You're good until this date, and they write the date into the passport. But in the reality, they hit the easy button. This has happened, actually, to people that are trying to go through the regularization program. They thought they got 7 days, and they go to immigration. Here's my passport. I only got 7 days. No, in the computer, it shows you have 180 days because they hit the easy button. So in reality, you have 180 days, no matter what that passport stamp says or what they wrote in the passport stamp. So it is a risk that you take. And what I've told people is that's just kind of the gamble you have to take. You can try and you can tell them, give me 7 days because I'm only going to be here for 7 days and I have a plane ticket. And why the heck are you giving me 180 days? But that doesn't, it's so funny because I always talk about 180 days isn't guaranteed, but also the same thing. You ask for 7 days, that's not guaranteed neither. It's the discretion of the immigration officer. And so the best thing to do is try. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying and asking for those 7 days or even telling them, why are you giving me 180 days? I don't need it. Maybe they'll change it. But the only thing you have to be careful with, if you did get 7 or 14 or 30 days, let's say they even say, oh, I'm going to give you 30, and they write it down in your passport, there's a way of checking. There's a QR code that you can go to look at your actual printed FMM. And you can even ask them, I want the barcode so I can go onto the internet and see my printed FMM. And then you can actually log on there, create an account, and you can actually see your FMM and just make sure they didn't issue it to you for 180 days. Because if not, or go to a facilitator. The facilitator knows how to pull it up. They'll look at it and they'll tell you, yeah, you know what? They gave you 180 days, even though they told you they gave you 14 or 30 or 10. So those are the only drawbacks to trying to ask for less. Or someone might ask, why are you asking for 7 days? Are you trying to get into the regularization program? Or maybe the immigration officer knows that's what you're trying to do and he'll try to help you out. There's no rhyme or reason to how they give out time here. There is no rhyme or reason. If anybody tells you that 180 days is automatic, that's not true. Because there is no automatic 180 days and there is no determination of how many days you'll get. What you more than likely will get, maybe someone might be able to predict, but there's no prediction. Some places I've heard everybody gets 180 days. Some places I heard they've been very strict. Other time, it also depends on the time of the year. There was some days they were even giving people less time. They even had plane tickets. Plane had to cut their vacation short. So that was for political reasons, but there's no guarantee either way around. But there's no harm in trying. And if you get 6 months, 180 days, stick around Mexico for 180 days and see if the program's still going. I mean, what do you have to lose? You stick around for 180 days and you have to go home. If worst case scenario, if the program doesn't exist anymore. But I see it going for a little bit longer. I just see that. And here's the other thing too. You might have to go to an office where you need a 180-day expired visa or FMM. So they might actually work to your advantage. So you just really need to check, especially where you want to do it, what they're requiring. So just go from there. My best bet would be to email your facilitators in all of those. How about land crossing, GYBK? The land crossings, they work a lot different. Land crossings are a little bit different in the sense of how they give you your, I think on the land crossing, the last time I checked, when you fly in, you pay a tax when you fly in, and that tax actually pays for your FMM. Okay. And I think if I'm not mistaken, your first 7 days or 14 days is free. You can ask for a 7-day FMM or 14-day FMM for free. And then after that, they charge you. Okay. So if it's going to be for longer. So I don't know if the land border is still doing that. You might just say, I only need to be here for 7 days and come in on the land border. I want the free one. I don't know if the land border is still doing that now with the new stuff going on. But I do know that with people doing border runs, the land border is a lot easier to do when you run for every 180 days than it is flying in and out. So that might be one of your options, is coming in and asking for, but they're still going to ask you, why are you coming in? Where are you going? It's got to make sense, really, to be honest with you. It's all got to make sense. If you have a story that doesn't match, the immigration officer may just say no. But the land border is a lot easier to deal with when it comes to coming back and forth. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you guys for all your support. I really appreciate it. Our Facebook group has been growing. We're almost up to we hit 9,000 already. We probably by next month will hit 10,000 Facebook group members. If you're in the Facebook group, don't forget to subscribe and make some suggestions to me. I'm going to put a post out there asking what you guys want to see, and we'll go from there. And thanks for showing up. And like I always say, stay informed, stay safe. Hope this information was useful, and we'll see you soon.